Hey there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And this is an exciting thing. This is the first of our lesson plans that we're going to be doing for you. This series will be drawn out into something we share with you for free. And then there will be more extended studies that are part of the paid group. It's only $99 a month reoccurring. And for that, you get the extended live trading with question and answer. And we'll go into deeper analytics and just help you to realize your own personal exponential growth curve. Once we go over that, you'll know more about what that means. So, we'll be sharing news and market watch and tried and true trading updates to let you see how our trades are going. And we'll walk you through a lot of very complex concepts with the charts and indicators, things that you're not going to get from others. We don't take a fully conventional approach to all these things. And we have an incredible level of accuracy, so we're passing that on to make sure that it is something that you can make use of and go along with us on the journey. We're not perfect. We do improve over time even, and the more that we get into this crazy crypto thing with all the new altcoins that have popped up for the past 3 and 4 years, most of them in the past 2 years, even less than 2 years, the industry gives us more and more data that we could use to improve our process. So the very first lesson here is about the exponential growth curve and an introduction into the exponential growth curve. And a lot of people like to use this for different things. It's fun to just ponder the growth itself. But you can tailor it to specific needs because it operates on so many different variables. You can kind of change those variables and tweak it to what you're thinking. In fact, I'm actually working on one right now. So exponential growth, let's talk about what it means first. Exponential growth is exhibited when the rate of change, the change per instant or unit of time, of the value of a mathematical function of time is proportional to the function's current value, resulting in its value at any time being an exponential function of time, a function in which the time value is the exponent. The exponential decay occurs in the same way when it's the negative version of the same thing. So what it's saying is that if you plot things along a timeline evenly, and you have something that is growing along that line, you can track it to see how it's growing. But in this case of exponential growth, there's something in the variable that is causing it to grow either more or quicker along that timeline. So if you set time as a constant, meaning that the time doesn't change, you'll find that the thing that you're measuring does against time. More is better. The decay means that it's doing worse over time. So let's avoid that one, huh? So in this case, the most obvious variable we would be looking at would be, it would have to do with money. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not. Okay. I always like to go and make sure that I'm not muted while I'm doing this stuff. So it's used all over the place. It's used in biology, talking about population growth and exponential growth of populations. Physics deals with it in chain reactions, nuclear physics. Finance, compound interest is the closest to what we would be talking about. Exponential growth of the capital usually talks in constants that deal with percentages. Computer technology, processing power, computational complexity, technological singularity. Now, singularity is very interesting. Some of the theoretical physicists get annoyed at the use of this word because the singularity actually means something else that precedes this in technical terms for that point of an infinite. I believe that we're talking black holes and the compression of time and space. Ray Kurzweil with Google is kind of an expert in Moore's law. He explains it very well. He's just crazy and evil in other ways, but that's a whole other thing. So, anyway, Moore's law is what we're moving into next. Once you understand, exponential means your exponent is the thing that's changing over time. But what I will show you just a little bit in the basics, we'll go into it more with the paid series, is that you have a lot of different variables that you can affect upon the principal exponent, and those components or variables can change the outcome, and you can use those to help your model. So what is Moore's law? By the way, thank you for these resources. I'm going to post the links to them, of course, so you can read over this at your own leisure. In '65, Gordon Moore, the co-founder of Intel, wrote a paper entitled Cramming More Components onto Integrated Circuits. Boy, did he know what the future was going to be. In this paper, he attempted to predict the course of the microelectronics industry for the next 10 years. which would take us to 75. He noted that the number of components per integrated circuit had approximately doubled each year for the past 5 years, and predicted that they would continue to do so for the next 10 years. In 75, Moore noted that 9 doublings had taken place instead of the 10 he predicted, and he modified his prediction of future progress to state that the component densities would double every 2 years for the foreseeable future. Colleague David House noticed that not only that, but the speed of those transistors were also improving, making him believe that you would be able to see a doubling of both the size, the number that could be fit in the same location, and the speed or the power of the processing that they would get, the better the performance. So isn't it very interesting down here? We're talking about every year and a half, and as you're measuring growth, you're measuring things like half-life. So Gordon Freeman would be very interested in that. Isn't that interesting, where my pseudonym might be coming from? We like to have fun with this. This is kind of in a space where people do that sort of thing. So half-life, Gordon Freeman. Very interesting. So Moore's law is the observation that computer performance for fixed dollar cost roughly doubles every 18 months. Moore's law is an observation about past progress in microelectronics, a law that has held true for over half a century. Now, notice how we're talking about the computer performance for a fixed dollar. Okay, so as we advance into this, we're adding variables. We're adding how many of these can I fit on here? We're adding how much processing power do we get from the transistors that we're fitting on here? And how much does it cost to do so? And all of these things are factoring in, and wouldn't you know it, it's staying on that same time code. So if it doubles, that means that what happens in year 3 is much bigger than if it was just the same thing as the first year over and over and over again. It's not linear, it's exponential. The exponentials are growing on top of themselves by moving at the same pace. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 10, 24, 24, 88, etc., up to 8192 as far as I can do it in my head. So here's the hockey stick. And I used to always accidentally say hockey puck and not realize I was saying that. So hockey stick is the idea. If you were to zoom in here, we're going to give an example, and I'm going to kind of keep it on this when we do that example. But this is not flat. It's so minute you could barely see the transition up to 10,000. But once you get there, it happens so much quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. It's just unbelievably quick. Okay. Logarithmic really doesn't give you the effect of seeing what's happening. This is exponential growth. This is the way you want to see it. Yes, sir. So what is Moore's law? I think we've gone through that pretty well. It's just another resource. It has different information about where we are and where we're headed. There's a lot of good information in here. I'm going to go through this in deeper explanation. But before I show you, the fun, just straightforward measurements, you'll find that a lot of the same information is in here. It does talk about observation and projection. It goes through just lots of different things. You put this together. I think they've done a good job of keeping the information about the solid state technology, semiconductors, transistors, keeping all that information together. So, this is just kind of a food for thought thing, and I'm gonna land us on the picture of the exponential growth curve while I give you this food for thought. Okay. Exponential growth is something that is in technology. It is in the things that result from technology and span out from that technology. And therefore, because everything we're using in order to do our trades, we're not just going to be looking at the exponential growth of the money side of it, although that may be the funnest part for some. The exponential growth affects every aspect of the trades. And so there's a lot of things that you would think that, oh, well, what are my chances if I do this or that, or if I make a mistake, or if I'm having to replot things or reposition, the way that I'm thinking about the size of this growth. But there are a lot of things that move in our favor the longer that this is able to continue without, the tightening of regulation and changes to the market that we don't want to see happen. So be encouraged and understand that there's something really exciting to tap into here, not just saying, okay, how am I going to figure out my next trade? How am I going to do the next one after that? And on and on and on. It's the exponential growth is kind of part of what helps you cling to the process and be willing to be patient for where you are in your timeline. So now we're going to go to something that I think is incredibly fun, and okay, it's working on a really fun one there. So exponential growth, I have this exponential growth calculator, and it'll be in the link. You will enjoy using this or something like it. It shows you, what the values are and how the equation works. I mean, if you wanted to be, super mathy on the calculations, then you can do it that way. So what's going on here with our exponential growth curve is that we're going to use our initial value as our trade size. We're not going to look at our principal, we're going to look at our trade size, because that's what you're going to be doing the whole time. Your principal, we're going to call your circulation, and I'll go through all of that in our model, okay? So then we're going to look at intergrowth or decay by percentage, which is perfect for, measuring profit, and we're going to enter time as an interval. So let's say that you're doing $100 as your trade, okay? And let's say that we're just going for a 0.5%, and we're going to do one trade, okay? So you could do this in your head, but what do you think we'll earn off of that one trade? Should be 50 cents, okay? Let's make sure, just by doing the math ourselves, that that is the case. So we're going to do $100 times 0.005 is 5% equals, yes, 50 cents. And then we add that to 100. I know it seems obvious, $100.50. Okay. So what we would look at as a model, we're going to try to measure based on an interval. Okay. So let's say that we are trying to do 4 trades at 0.5%, which, if you want to simplify the model, in my case, we're looking at 0.2% being the maker and taker fees, 0.1 and 0.1. So by the time I've completed a trade, I'm looking at 0.2%, so I'm going to actually be calculating 0.7% for my 0.5% trades. Now, that also means that I would much rather, well, I'm not going to get too far into this, but I would much rather, instead of getting stuck with a hold, take 0.3% and move forward and just have to do an extra trade in order to finish my interval, than to have money that could be circulating, get stuck in things. So you can mentally adjust towards, did I finish this interval? Did I not finish this interval? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's say that I am doing 2% is one interval, and you could say that that equals a day if you wanted to think of it in those terms. So that would be 1 day or one interval. So let's say we've done 10 days. Let's say we've done 30. Well, now here's what I want you to look at that's interesting. So we have a $100 trade we're starting off with at 0.005% equals that. Okay, so in order to finish an interval, we're saying that it's times 4, so that's 2. So we add that to 100, and clearly we have the same number for a single interval. So let's do that times 10. So that'll be 10 intervals, or you could say, I'm trying to do 4 correct trades at 0.5% each. So let's just start it from scratch. 100 times 0.005 equals that times 4 equals that times 10. We're going to do that 10 times in a row, and now we're going to add that to our initial trade. So these two numbers are off because what we've done over here is the first trade we added 50 cents, the first trade 50 cents, second one, by the end of the day we've got $2. On the second day, we are starting at $102. And then let's just say that we had $102 and a little bit extra. So we have an extra 4 cents. Whoop-de-doo, right? So do that 4 times, and it should just be 2468, right? But now we have 24 cents. We've worked our way up to an extra 25 cents, basically, just by rolling in whatever we're earning. So you're not trying to stow away your profits to pay yourself this early in the game. You want to set yourself a goal so that you're not just earning linearly, which is what I see. Even the best traders, they work with a large amount of money. Then they do that at margin so that they can inflate what their earnings are. They take a percentage of that to pay themselves, and then they keep working with the same amount. They may then separately reinvest some of that to sit in a compounding interest process. They might say, I made $1,000 a day, so I'm putting 200 of it aside, and I'm going to let that, grow over time. Well, that's smart, but what I think is smarter is to work this like the smart combination of your investing, your long-term stuff, whatever you would do with mutual funds or whatever else, CDs, etc., or anything that you would save over time, anything you would invest over time, but then look at the day trading process as your way to do that in a much shorter period of time with much larger growth. Okay? So we only grew, in our 4 days, we only made, 25 cents, and nobody's going to say, wow, lit the world on fire. So why are we so much more here? Well, it seems to me like 100 times 0.005 equals that, times 4 equals that, times 8 equals that. Yep. Seems like that should be 116. You're telling me that 4 more times I went from 4 cents to 24 cents to $1.16. Okay? So, I know still, you're not a millionaire. I understand that. But I want you to think about the exponential component of just adding the trades from each of those intervals. Whatever you got from profit, that's your new trade size. Well, anybody can believe that, after 10 days or 10 intervals of doing this, that if you were to do the same thing all over again for the next 10 days, starting at 121 instead of 100, would find it easy to believe that that's going to lead to more profits. Well, you've earned these. You have these on top of your 100. This is something you didn't have before. Now, we're going to go into managing losses or managing holds, hodls, managing your circulation, all these different things. I'm going to give you the basics so you can kind of think in the right terms and, a plausible strategy for what you're going to try to do and based on your own accuracy and whether you're trading with us or not. So make sure and go to Archangel Alts and subscribe. Join with us in our membership. The $99 reoccurring monthly cost comes down to roughly $3 a day, and we'll be trading with you live, showing you how to move in and out of the intricacies of the charts and the indicators. And we'll do a lot of this stuff for free. The news, the market watch. We'll show you updates on how our trades are doing, show you live trading, going through the basics of all of the program, this kind of stuff like you're watching right now. But the paid version is going to go much more advanced into all of those things, really give you an entirely open, transparent look at everything that we're doing. Being on the journey with us, we're on the journey with you. It's going to be the building of a community literally from the ground level up. Okay, so this is after 10 days, and you can see that instead of making, what comes to $2 a day for 10 days equaling 20, you now have an extra $1.89, and that's a really big deal. So what I'm saying, and you can just round these off just to kind of, get your head around what happens next. So what would happen if we were still doing this linearly and we were 20 days in? So 100 times, and I can, simplify this. Oh, well, let's start by getting the number right. Times 0.2. Okay, so that was for 10. So logic would tell us that for 20 days, we would have that plus our original 100, right? So, by either of these models, that's really good. If you're able to maintain 2% growth, which people don't do, you'll find that, you're almost half of your original trade size, so if you can just stay with us and stay in it consistently, something great is going to happen. So let's look at what happens in 30 days. We should basically have 20, 40, 60, okay? We do this exponentially. Oh, wait, no, that's not even possible. That can't be possible. Okay, so 100 times 0.02 equals that for a single thing, okay? Times 30 equals that plus 100 equals 160. Okay. Oops. Okay. I should have done this. I apologize. No, I'm going to do it the right way here. I had already adjusted for the 121, making a previous example. So here we go. This is what we're looking for. All right. So the difference has now grown from that $1.89 that we got from that first 20. We're now at $21.13 more than the linear, okay, in our first month with only $100, okay? Depends on how patient you are, but if I were to break this down into 30-day periods of time or 30 intervals, and every time I did that, I just, put in like the rounding it down to that next point, and what would the difference be, you're going to gain an understanding of just how much growth is involved there, okay? So that's what I'm actually going to do. So let's just say that these are months. You're doing this every single day, and I'm not saying that that's, exactly what's going to happen, okay? But that versus, always doing $100, okay, times 0.02 equals that, times, now we're going to say 60. So you should have 120 plus your original 100, which is super fantastic. I mean, if you're doing that, that's pretty crazy. But the margin between linear and exponential is getting wider as we go along, isn't it? Yep. So just going to show you if you were still at the $100, 2%, and let's say you're doing this for 369, 120 intervals, or if you were 369, 120, if you were doing it for 4 months, every single day, averaging out 30 days a month. So that's pretty remarkable. All right, so let's see how wide the gap has gotten in linear. 100 times 0.02, that's one interval, times 120 equals that, plus 100 equals 340. Okay, so are you seeing what I'm talking about with the hockey stick? Right? I mean, it's not just, I would much rather suffer through the majority of the process. You can tell that almost all of your growth happens between 7 and 8, and you almost never reach 9. It just goes higher and higher and almost never reaches 9 for infinity in this kind of 0 to 10 example here, okay? So we have very successfully kind of gotten through this part. And what you have to start learning to readjust, and we'll get into the advanced teachings side of that, is that you also are holding positions. So you don't just go in with $100 and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to make $1,000, because you're not going to be right all the time. What we don't want to do is to hold up the exponential growth. Not only are you taking money out and then making it really tough to get to your goal, but you're also doing a stop loss, which gives you the mentality of saying, how likely is it that I'm going to screw things up? And I just don't think that that's the healthy way to look at things. But just once again, in this example, let's say that we're doing, 369, 120, 150. Yeah, so 8 months. Let's say an 8-month projection, which I really like 8 months as a projection. You're talking about $11,000, okay? So this gives you an idea of what the growth is like, but I'm also going to tell you that unless you do score perfect, which is fantastic, if you can do that, then write me and we'll talk about how you do it. I would like to learn a few things from you, absolutely. But what you're going to find is that in order to first be able to survive wading through the hodls, and unintentional hodls. Some people see hodl as hold on for dear life, as in I'm never going to sell this coin. And I'm thinking, well, you're never going to make more than what you bought in the coin. But you have to learn to either break things down, stair step, wait out certain intervals, reduce down and scale back up, all sorts of different things that you'll have to do to readjust. But as long as you always understand the exponential growth, you'll be able to increase your trade size from wherever you are, reposition, continue to grow until you can wait out the next thing. But we'll also explain why sometimes adding funds to your circulation is the logical thing to do. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that you'll enjoy looking up this information, research it for yourself. And the last takeaway that I want to give you in thinking about exponential growth is how complex and wonderful it is that, the more information you understand about this, the better fully well-rounded concept you have of what it is you're trying to accomplish. You will benefit more in your trades from understanding what is happening in exponential growth and technology, the computers that we're using, the trading process itself, the blockchain technology that those coins are using, the transactions that have to pass through those, and the technology of the use of the coins and the potential future growth of those things, mass adoption. Every single one of these things are exponential. So, yes, of course this is high risk. Of course there's a chance of failure. We've gotten frustrated by, dozens of positions that we wish never happened, but we've been right for more than 11,000 positions now. Buys and sells, I think we're getting close to 20,000 now. And we're doing that in very small moves. And I want to tell you, sometimes I don't know that I've got the patience to do it, but I do. I push through. We know that we're getting there. We know we're on the right track. We've measured and remeasured those old positions and what they're likely to do over time. And either the whole market corrects in the direction of Bitcoin as mass adoption happens, or there's something flawed in the concept of all ERC20 tokens, all of Ethereum's base stuff, whatever happens with the hard fork with Bitcoin Cash, XRP, Litecoin, I mean, you name it, every single project that's out there would have to be on the wrong skew in order for us to fail if we do stay with this. So the only things that concern me over time would be the regulation, the change of things as they are, delistings, natural disasters, etc. Otherwise, anything that, if we plan for failure in that way, then you might as well expect, mass, insanity, because it would probably take the internet going down in order for it not to work. So stick with us. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope that you'll review and reflect on this. And please consider joining our paid subscription. If you don't want to, please join our free one and become part of the community. We are doing a soft launch. We're growing organically as we can. And we really, the thing that is missing from our group is you. So please subscribe on YouTube, ring the bell so you get notifications, give us a thumbs up, comment. We look forward to hearing from you. Just, don't be stupid, don't be mean or dumb. We're here to learn. We're here to encourage each other to grow and be on the journey together. Fantastic stuff. So thank you so much. Take your time and watch the different live trades, the proof of our positions, all the different things. Join us on archangelalts.com and come be a voice in the community. Thank you so much. God bless you. And for now, Archangel Alts out.